everyone, and welcome to Directions. Directions is a show about directional changes in our lives, whether that be a new job, an old job, walking through sickness, the death of a family member, getting remarried, going through a divorce, who knows, all sorts of changes that happen in our lives. And those directions often affect us. And sometimes they're tremendous, they're awesome, they're incredible, and other times they're sad and discouraging and despairing. So my guest this morning is my good friend James Patterson, Pastor James Patterson.
Good morning.
Good to have you here. Thanks for coming in. And
You're welcome.
I've known James now for I think I met you probably in the year 2000 at one of those pastoral prayer meetings. That's when we moved here. Maybe it was 2001. So 24 years.
That's close.
That's a long time. And he was really young then, okay? So
As if I'm not now.
yeah, you are young now. You're young. I suspect you're younger than me. I don't know, but I suspect you are. So I don't actually know how old you are. Do you want to share or not?
No.
You don't want to share? Okay, well, I'll share my age and then you can, well, no, we won't even go there. So anyway, as long as I've known you, you've been a pastor in the city and you've been influential in city gatherings, prayer meetings, outreaches, all sorts of pastoral entities. Early on, it was called CellNet and Imagine Omaha and Embrace Omaha, and now it's Within Reach, and the names are always changing. And the people have changed over the years. You and I have watched a lot of people come and go. We've watched people leave the city and go elsewhere, live in another city and minister there. We've watched some retire. We've watched a few die. And we've watched new people come in. And that's an ongoing challenge, at least for me. I don't know about you. It's an ongoing challenge as people come in. They're getting acclimated in their new building, their new congregation. Oftentimes they are not as engaged in the city as we are. They haven't fallen in love with it. I didn't know the city when I moved here. You know, I had been to Omaha a couple of times, but I didn't know it when I moved here in 2000. It took a while for me to fall in love with the city and want to be a part of it and minister effectively and bring change. So, what year did you come here? Let's start with that.
Oh,
Do you remember?
I came in 85.
85. So you've been here 15 years longer than I have. I've been here 25. You've been here 40 years.
I came in 85 with the military,
Okay.
with the intentions of being there for 3 years and going back to God's country, somewhere on the East Coast between Northern Virginia and Atlanta.
When did California get moved to the East Coast? Or Texas?
It,
When did
it,
both of
never,
those
it
get
never
moved?
was God's country from where I came from.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure California is God's country anymore. I would say Texas still is, but I'm not sure about California. So you came here with the intention of staying 3 years. What changed in that time? What transpired?
I came here, as I said, with the military and with the intention of finishing my military career here. And then I promised my wife, we'll go back to God's country. All of our relatives and was on the East Coast. We had no contacts, no family support in the Midwest. And at the end of that 3 years, when I was ready to make that transition, the Lord decided to interrupt it. And I need to put it in context if I tell that story, because God had called me to ministry. And on my assignment, He sent me to Korea. He told me prophetically before I departed that you think you're going for one reason, but I'm sending you for another. And then when we got there, situation developed. Thriving gospel services going on, and chief of chaplains came to me, asked me if I would pastor the gospel service. Well, I wasn't a chaplain; I was a cost analyst. And but he says neither he nor none of his staff felt comfortable doing the service, and if I would ask me if I would pastor. And so I says I prayed about it. I said it didn't take me long because the Lord had already said He was sending me for a reason, and so I said sure. And I made that decision. It was the right decision, and God showed up. There was wonderful fruit. There was people's lives changed forever, and then I left from there, went to my next assignment, and sure enough, the same thing happened again. This time it wasn't a chaplain, but it was somebody else who worked in the chapel who the chaplains had given them the authority to find a pastor because over this service, because the chaplains did not do the gospel services. And so they came to me and asked me if I would do pastor that one. So I said, sure.
So where was the second? The first one was Korea. Where was the second one? Was that here?
San Antonio.
Oh, San Antonio. Okay.
Yeah. And then when I came here, I'm getting ready to get out of the military, and finishes my tour, and we're trying to get out. We're making plans and so on and so forth, and everything looks so easy. It's like just like falling on a banana. And I didn't consult the Lord about this. This is what I promised my wife, and we had agreed to it. And we was about to get out of here, and it seemed like everything shut down. Everything shut down for me. And I was thrown into a tailspin. What's going on? And then in the meantime, I found this little church that somebody had recommended to me. It was a wonderful place to worship. Great word comes forth. They had city and mind and souls. And so I says, hey, I can, let me go check it out because that sounds like a place I can serve while I'm here because I'm leaving. I know my term is short term. So I went there. And then the pastor, after I was there for a few months, he announced that he's going to retire. I mean, he was going to go plant a church because God was calling him to plant. And then I said, that's okay. I'll pray for you. And I pray that God will help you to find somebody because I'm leaving. I didn't tell him that. And so after a number of months have passed, he finally came to me in Bible study one night and says, I'm leaving, right? I said, sure. He said, are you interested in pastoring? I says, this denomination don't know me. I said, why should I even consider it? I could be the son of Jack the Ripper, or I have kids from here to Timbuktu, my past. No, why would a denomination consider me who don't know me? And he said, well, would you just go pray about it? I said, I wouldn't pray about it. And the Lord says, make yourself available to serve. And when I did, that's how I ended up in Omaha. Was not my will.
Was that at the church you're at? You were at Trinity Hope?
Yes, yes.
So let's back up for a minute. I don't want to lose sight of something. You mentioned before about in Korea and then again in San Antonio, they wanted a pastor for what you call a gospel service. Can you define what that means to you?
Yes, it was the traditional services on the base was Catholic and Protestant.
Okay.
Most of America was Catholic, and everything non-Catholic fell under Protestantism. Well, a gospel service is more upbeat, more Pentecostal in nature, more charismatic.
Okay.
And the chaplains did not feel comfortable touching it.
Okay.
And so they looked for other people who was licensed or ordained by a denomination to help them, to assist them in that area.
But at the time, you weren't licensed or ordained, right?
Oh yeah, I was licensed.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
I was licensed. I had an exhorter's license, okay, at the first level, and but God chose me to do it. So
these are directional changes in your life because you're actually, in my mind, I'm rephrasing for you, you're thinking military, wherever they take you, and then depart military and go back to God's country.
God's country,
right?
Absolutely.
Wherever that is, okay?
Yeah.
But not.
Oh, I knew where it was.
Not Omaha.
I knew where it was.
Yeah. Not Korea, not San Antonio, not Omaha.
Exactly.
No, off it, but.
Northern Virginia to Atlanta, somewhere.
Okay.
Because our family is like Johnny Appleseed, just went along sowing seeds.
Well, I mean, I lived in South Carolina. I have family in North Carolina. I minister in Virginia a lot. So I know that area. So yeah, I could see why you would think that's God's country. So,
yeah.
That's pretty. It's beautiful. Yeah. My cousin raises llamas, and he raises grapes. He has a big winery and everything. Raises grapes there, and it's an amazing place in North Carolina, right outside of is it Greensboro? Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
Salem area, somewhere in there. So, all right. Off of that, now you've made a decision. Tell me how Suzanne is responding to some of this. Can you do that?
To
Staying here. as
Oh,
opposed to going back to God's country?
oh no, that was a challenge.
Okay.
That was a challenge. Um, she, um, she, she had it. It was very, very difficult for her because I had promised her, and she had no relatives, no connectivity here, no family support. We're not seeing our relatives, our nieces, our nephews grow up and want to be active in their lives. So it was very, very difficult. And um, so I did my very best to encourage her, but whatever I did was not sufficient. And the Lord actually had to speak to her in a way that she knew it was Him, and letting her know that this was His will for us to be here,
Right.
for her to be a part of that. And uh, and once He did that, then she was good to go. But prior to then, it was a no-go zone.
So it's an obvious directional change for you because you were in the military, uh, Air Force.
Correct.
What was your rank?
Oh, and I got out as a captain.
Okay. So you're captain in the Air Force. You're going to think about retiring, moving back to the Carolinas, Virginia. God started opening doors for you in Korea, but you didn't realize that was a door for Omaha, right?
Well,
I mean,
right.
kind of was, right? Kind of.
Well, it was putting me on a path. My heart was serving Him, whatever He wanted. Um, I made a commitment to Him one day, and I said, "For Jesus I'll live, and for Jesus I'll die."
Right.
I made that kind of commitment, and wherever He would lead, I would be available. And and my wife and I, when we were married, we agreed, and that's who we were. And all of the ministry, when we went to Korea, she came along with me, and the Lord used us there as a team. Went to San Antonio the same way. It was team ministry,
Right.
and God just showing up.
So I was talking to a friend of mine this morning on the phone while I was driving here, and you know, he's a few minutes late, and he's in Florida, and we were talking about serving God without a hook, without saying, I'll do it if you provide all these things, or I'll do it if you open all of these doors, or I'll do it if this amount of income comes in, or whatever. And he's saying just loving God and serving God without that little hook in there. And it sounds like as long as I've known you, that's who you are.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
I if once the Lord revealed His will, He will provide for us.
Right.
And the question is, sometimes we have an expectation which is not His expectation, and that can cause us difficulty. But when we humble ourselves and surrender to Him and submit to Him and His providence, He's already got it figured out, already got it laid out for us. It might not be as cushiony as the things that we want, but in His plan, His purposes will be performed.
Right. So now we're going to fast forward a lot for the last third of the show. So you've been a pastor here at this church that I've been a blessing to speak at many times and help you get chairs and whatever. But now you've just recently retired. Is that correct?
Oh, about 3 years ago.
Okay. Well, that's recent. Okay.
Okay.
So you've had plenty of time to adapt to retirement. And what was that like, stepping out of pastoral role, ministry? Now did Suzanne retire too?
Yes.
Okay.
She retired before I did.
Okay. And so now you're together, and you could still go back to God's country, right? You still could have done that, right? For
Correct.
whatever reason, up to this point, you've chosen not to.
Correct.
You want to talk a little bit about all that?
Yes. What was it like to step out of it? First, my you might call him a bishop who was over me, and he said to me probably a year ago. He said, "James," he says, you're about 70, and he says that we're not pushing you out or anything. He says, but have you thought about retiring? And he says, and if you're not, we're good. He said, but just don't tell me you're going to retire. All of a sudden, tell me you're going to retire like 2 weeks later or a month later. And I said, oh no, I'm not even thinking about it. And then it was in prayer. Some probably like I said, it's been about 3 years. It was in prayer in December, and the Lord spoke to my heart, and and let me know that it's time for me to retire. And but whenever he said that, and then also he identified who was my successor, somebody who had been with me for a long time, and it was time to turn it over to them and to encourage them in a way that I could. And so, whenever he spoke that to me, I says, okay. And as long as I'm in the will of the Lord, I'm okay. It doesn't matter what the job is. If I know this is the will of the Lord. And so whenever he said that to me, the lights, it was like somebody flipping a switch because I'm ready to shift. And I contacted my supervisor, my bishop, you would say, call him, and I says, hey, I'm going to be retiring. I said, this is what's going on. He says, when? I said, oh, maybe let's get about 3 months. Is something going on? Are you in financial difficulty? Are you in a political situation, a legal situation, or where there's pressure on you? So I said, no, 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 nothing's wrong.
Right.
Nothing's wrong. He said, well, what's the rush? I said, well, the Lord just said it's time. He said, can we have some more time for the process? I said, sure. so, when I know the will of God, I can shift
Right.
because it's not mine. Whatever I have is not mine. Whatever I do, if there's good come from it, it's the Lord. And it's the grace of God that gives me the privilege and opportunity to serve, and the anointing and the favor that brings forth. It's not me and my ability and my whatever James is able to come up. It's all from the Lord, and so I just give it back to Him. So when I made the shift, that was me, but it was a little bit more difficult for my wife. It was harder for her to accept it in the beginning,
Right.
and it was harder for her to give it up in the end. I won't say give it up; it's not a good word, but to turn it
Sure.
loose.
Sure. Well,
Because she put forth we put so many years.
it's a directional change.
Yes.
That's what the show's about. How do you navigate? So people who are watching today, and they're out there and they're like 2 or 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years away from retirement,
Yeah.
and they're thinking, oh, it'll be easy because I don't. Some people, they don't like their job. So if they don't like their job, retirement is like, okay, I can't wait, you know, or retirement is after they pay off their house, or something along that line, so they have the income to do that and then relax or whatever. For you, you're enjoying it. You're liking ministry. You like your job. You like your occupation. And so to follow God when you like something and bring a change, it's like us coming here. When we moved here, I would never have picked Omaha like you. I mean, this wasn't God's
Absolutely.
country, so you wouldn't have picked Omaha, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I could see myself living here. We made a 5-year commitment to a school that closed 1 year after we were here, and now I'm stuck. We both lose our jobs on the same day. What am I supposed to do? What is she supposed to do? How do we navigate this? And obviously God did a whole lot of things, and we're still here 24 years later. But it's like I would never pick Omaha. I like warm weather in the winter. I don't like snow. I like palm trees. I like citrus trees. I like my flowers blooming year round. I like all that, but it's not about what I like.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Because that's the hook. That's the hook. Well, I'll serve you, God, if there's a beach, or I'll serve you, God, if there's a mountain, with snow or whatever it is you like. And God's saying, well, will you serve me just because you love me?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it took the military to get me here. Had it not been a military that got me here,
Right.
I don't see how I would have came here. But after being here, I know this was the will of the Lord for me because of the favor that He gave me, and how He connected me, and the things that He had allowed me to do and to serve and be a part of. And that was all His providential planning. So it was, you might say He had a hook. It was the military that brought me here, okay? But had it not been for that, The only thing I knew about Omaha was Mutual.
Right.
Mutual of Omaha.
Mutual of Omaha.
Wild Kingdoms,
Yeah.
okay?
So we have about 5 minutes left. What are a couple things you miss from ministry?
Oh, preaching on a regular basis, of course. And I still get into the Word, but the preparation, sermon preparation, and the energy that goes into that, getting prepared and looking forward to that delivery, and delivering it, and feeling that you've given what God has given you. Um, and I love serving people in that servant room. But as far as the presence of the Lord and the goodness of God and all of those things hasn't changed. He hasn't changed. He
Right.
my study time, my prayer time, and things like that has not changed.
A friend of mine, and you know him, Keith Grimm. Do you remember Keith Grimm? You know, he's been
Absolutely.
up in Minnesota now for 10 years, and he told me, we were talking about, he's younger than both of us, and he's like maybe 10 years away from retirement. But he was telling me, he said, if I ever get to retire, one thing I won't miss is preaching. And you miss it, and I would miss it, but he won't miss it. There's other things
Well,
he likes, but he said, especially the preparation, that he said, I like making the delivery
yeah,
on Sunday morning, but the hours and hours of preparation he doesn't like.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I missed that in that I was doing it, and the pressing into God to hear His message, to get His message.
right.
That was the thing. That was the purpose, and it's all about fulfilling God's purpose, not about me being fulfilled. But my fulfillment is in doing His will.
So you and Suzanne, I know one thing you've been doing is a lot of traveling.
A little bit.
Has that been enjoyable for the two of you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have always enjoyed doing that, and it's good to have the freedom to do that. So, and not to be pressured on one end or the other. That's enjoyable.
What about, have you been a guest preacher anywhere?
A few places. I don't preach like I used to, but every once in a while I get an invite here, invite there. Not as much. I I don't put my shingles out and put them in front of people and ask. And if the door opened, then I'll go share.
So just for the people who are watching, okay, this guy can preach. Okay, I've heard him. Okay, he can preach, he can pray, and he's really qualified. So locally, or even across the country on my YouTube channel, reach out to me. I'll give you his number. So he's a good guy. You'd want to have him in. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, I know you're really good. I appreciate that. One of the things I've always admired about you in this, you talk about giving. Somewhere along the line, and I don't remember how or when or where, how it happened, but you began, not just us, but lots of other people, but you began at the holidays bringing us a sweet potato pie. Do you remember how that started at all with us, or was it just something you did? Because I know you took them to lots of different people. And sweet potato pie from the South is different than pumpkin pie in the North, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just the delivery person. My
Okay,
wife was the pie person.
okay,
She's
okay.
the maker, and she loved to do it. She loved to do it. And just some friends.
Well, I've lost 37 pounds as of this morning, and I hope to have lost a little bit more by Christmas, but that does not negate the fact that I would not eat some sweet potato pie this year, okay? If it comes. It came last year. Now, I know we moved, so it's much further. He used to be able to drive to our house in like 10 or 15 minutes. Now it takes him much longer because I live way across town. So it really is an act of service, especially if it's cold. But I had to throw that in and just say, your sweet potato pie, Suzanne, if you're watching this, it's delicious.
Now I'm still trying to figure out how that go into transitional.
Well, and just including it, I want to make sure it's not transitioned out. I want to make sure it's still there. So, well, we did transition one year. I asked for, I don't know why I did. I asked for greens instead of, good southern greens too. So, and I like those. They're
So
hard to find right here.
as Jay is sharing these things, that's just our friendship over the years, the richness of our friendship, and it interacted, and he with and his family and his son and his wife, and we just enjoyed each other, and we enjoyed meals together, and in each other's homes, and just the personalization of our relationship. It wasn't just at church.
Right.
So that's the emphasis there. It wasn't just at church.
Right. They had meals at our house. We had meals at your house, and did a lot of things together. Not like every month, but on enough consistent basis. And James was the second pastor in Omaha to invite me in to preach. First one was Al Burks, also part of your denomination, right? At that
Yes.
time. And then, which was the Foursquare denomination. I don't know if you're still with them or not, but,
Yep.
and then that began to open the doors. And I've been in 156 churches in Omaha. And it takes the first couple of doors open and then good referrals after that. I'm sure people came to you, and I know they came to Al and said, did he do okay, or was he just a dud, you know? And so I don't know what you said. You don't have to say what you said, but, I'm sure Al was always, upbeat and joyful about that.
Yeah.
So we have about a minute left. What would you tell somebody that's thinking about retirement right now?
I would say that you need to really sit down and look at yourself financially, and you might need to get some additional help from the outside to actually do some planning to make sure that you'll be able to sustain yourself. I would say work on getting out of debt. Get your debt under control, and try to get your recurring expenses under control, and uh, and then talk about how you want to spend your time together with your wife, and how the two of you would do that.
Right. Wife and children, if you have grandchildren and so on, how you want to maneuver that season in your life as well. So we just thank you for tuning in today to Directions, and our time is up. We'll catch you next time. God bless you, and keep on looking to God. He'll show you the way. Bye-bye.